My name is Alina Grayson and I am 45 years old. I live in Springfield, Illinois, in a quiet neighborhood that is often filled with the sounds of children playing and people tending to their gardens. Life in my world used to be predictable. I had a job I liked, friends I cherished, and a husband I loved more than anything. But when my father passed away unexpectedly in 2018, everything changed. He had bought my mother a beautiful new car just 2 months before he died. They had financing through his credit union, and though my mother did not have her name on the loan because she was not a member, that did not diminish her joy at receiving this gift. There was a sense of pride in having that car, a mark of my father's love for her. It was not just a vehicle, it symbolized their life together. However, just 2 days before he passed, my father made a mistake. He wrote the check for $5 less than the actual loan payment. The day after he died, I received a call from the credit union demanding that payment. I had just lost my father, and here I was answering the phone to deal with this mess. I explained what had happened and promised that my mother would pay the owed amount. Little did I know this was just the beginning of our troubles. The next day, the phone rang again, shattering the silence of our grief. The voice on the other end was cold and uncompromising. They demanded that my mother return her car immediately because her name was not on the loan. I felt my heart race as I heard the words. How could they do this? My mother had traded in her old vehicle for this one. She had no other transportation and was now left with the burden of losing not just my father but also her means of independence. I watched her face pale as she tried to reason with them, pleading with them to transfer the loan into her name, but they would not budge. She even attempted to become a member of the credit union, but they rejected her, coldly stating it was company policy. Your husband is gone, there is no car, they said. They pestered her every day for an entire week, demanding she return the car and refusing to refund any part of the down payment. At this moment, I felt a fire ignite inside me. I was filled with anger, the kind of anger that makes you feel helpless and powerless. They were being cruel, making my mother suffer while she was still enveloped in grief over losing my father. I could not stand by and let this happen. After days of desperate attempts to rectify the situation, my mother decided to take matters into her own hands. She often said that when life forces you into a corner, you need to fight your way out, and she was not the sort to back down quietly. She told me she had a plan, and considering how desperate we already felt, I was willing to support her. The next morning, she said she would be taking a trip. Alone, she drove 6 hours away to a car dealership we had never visited before. I remember feeling anxious as she left. What are you going to do? I asked, worry creeping into my voice. She simply smiled and assured me, you will see. The following day, she called me to tell me she had found an identical car and purchased it in her name. She explained that rather than drive the car back, she left the original one at the dealership and threw away the keys. I was stunned, my mouth agape. Mom, are you serious? I could hardly believe what she had done. The next day, the persistent calls from the credit union resumed. They demanded that she return the car once more, but this time my mother did something I will never forget. She told them exactly where to find the original car and said nonchalantly, go get it. With a tone of defiance, she added, if you want your car back, fine, go get it. She hung up the phone and blocked their number as if she had just dropped an emotional bomb. What they did not realize was that they had awakened a force of nature in my mother. This was a woman who had suffered losses but refused to be bullied any longer. From that day forward, my mother walked with her head held high. Eventually, we heard from website forums and friends that people actually praised her for what she had done. They appreciated her bold defiance against a system that works to exploit those who are vulnerable. She had made the credit union look foolish and sent a clear message that her grief would not be tampered with. Days turned into weeks, and though she faced her own struggles with mourning, she had regained a small piece of her power. Life gradually returned to a new normal for us. My mother grew stronger from the ordeal, adopting a fearless attitude in moments of conflict or confrontation. She taught me that revenge could sometimes mean standing your ground when faced with injustice. I watched her emerge not only as my mother but also as a woman who reclaimed her dignity in the midst of despair. And one last intriguing twist to this tale, we received a surprising letter months later from the credit union. They were now pursuing different policies aimed at empathy for bereaved family members after a review of their interactions with my mother. It was shocking to see that her actions had led to a change, even if it took time. It seemed that my mother had become more than a figure in her own story. She was now a catalyst for change, leaving a mark on that organization that would ultimately promote understanding for others in difficult situations. The world may have dealt her a terrible hand, but she had fought back in the most extraordinary way, and that is a lesson I intend to carry with me forever.